Imagine working at a juice plant on a normal Tuesday morning when suddenly a 20-foot-tall water tank holding nearly 500,000 gallons bursts open without warning. Within seconds, a tidal wave of water rushes through the factory, swallowing machinery, flooding production lines, and sending workers scrambling for their lives. Forklifts are knocked sideways, pallets float like makeshift rafts, and the entire building is shaking under the weight of a disaster no one saw coming. This isn't a movie scene. It's a real event that happened inside a US juice plant, turning one of the country's largest beverage factories into a waterlogged nightmare. Before we dive into this dramatic collapse and uncover what really went wrong, make sure to hit the subscribe button and join ManuFact, where we reveal the hidden stories of factory disasters, billion-dollar mistakes, and the surprising processes behind everyday products. The unseen giant. To understand how a single tank could cripple an entire plant, you first need to realize just how important it was. In juice factories, water isn't only for cleaning, it's a vital ingredient used to dilute concentrate, control temperatures, and power steam systems. That massive steel tank stored nearly 500,000 gallons of water, enough to fill 20 Olympic swimming pools. One single container, holding the lifeblood of the entire operation. And when that container failed, the consequences spread faster than the flood itself. The collapse. Workers later recalled hearing a low rumble, something like thunder trapped inside the walls. At first, no one could pinpoint the source. Then, without warning, the bolts holding the tank seams gave way. The sides split open and unleashed a wall of water with the power of a freight train. Expensive filling machines drowned in seconds, forklifts were overturned, and crates were swept across the factory floor like toys. It wasn't just a minor accident or a simple maintenance issue. It was a catastrophic engineering failure. The cost no one saw coming. Within hours, local media showed dramatic images of factory doors blown open by the sheer pressure of water, entire production halls submerged, and employees standing outside in shock. But what the cameras couldn't show was the financial damage that spread far beyond the factory walls. Production stopped completely for weeks. Supermarket contracts worth millions were suddenly on hold. Insurance companies debated whether the collapse was a structural failure or the result of negligent upkeep. Industry experts quietly estimated the total cost at tens of millions of dollars, not counting the damage to the brand's reputation. Here's where the story takes a twist. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened. Just a few months earlier, another food facility reported a tank failure, and years back, a dairy plant in the Midwest lost its milk silos in a nearly identical collapse. When engineers began piecing these incidents together, a disturbing pattern emerged. Were these tanks built to fail? Investigations revealed that many tanks across the food and beverage industry were designed decades ago, often with outdated safety margins. Some were never properly inspected after installation. Corrosion, metal fatigue, and poor welding, all nearly invisible from the outside, were quietly eating away at structures that held millions of gallons. When failure finally struck, it wasn't gradual, it was explosive. If you're finding this story eye-opening, don't miss out on our upcoming videos, like the time a single mislabeled shipment triggered a nationwide recall. Hit the like button and turn on notifications so you're the first to see it. The human side. For the workers inside that juice plant, the disaster wasn't about engineering theories or insurance claims. It was about survival. Employees described being swept off their feet by waist-high water, some barely reaching emergency exits after being pinned against walls by floating crates. One technician said it felt like the entire building was collapsing around them. Another admitted he thought he would drown in the very factory he worked in every day. Thankfully, no lives were lost, but the psychological scars were real. Imagine returning to work in a plant where you once nearly drowned, not from fire, not from toxic chemicals, but from water you thought was harmless. The lessons learned. The incident forced the industry to face some hard truths. Neglected inspections are disasters waiting to happen. Visual checks aren't enough. Tanks of this scale need ultrasonic testing and rigorous monitoring. Relying on one giant storage tank is a gamble. Many companies have since redesigned facilities to split storage across multiple smaller tanks to limit risk. And most importantly, emergency training saves lives. Quick-thinking staff were able to shut down electrical systems and prevent chemical spills in the chaos. Without those actions, the story could have ended very differently. The aftermath. Months later, the juice plant finally reopened, this time with reinforced tanks and stricter safety protocols. But even with new infrastructure, the scars remained, on balance sheets, in boardrooms, and in the minds of workers. The collapse became a case study across the food industry, used in training programs and conferences to highlight the risks of ignoring aging infrastructure. And it left everyone with one sobering reminder. Even the most ordinary piece of equipment, something as simple as a water tank, can unleash extraordinary chaos if neglected. The next time you pour yourself a glass of orange juice, remember this. Behind every carton on the shelf is a system of machines, tanks, and people working together to make it happen. And sometimes, when one part of that system fails, it doesn't just stop production, it can nearly bring the whole operation crashing down. If you found this story shocking, subscribe to ManuFact for more behind-the-scenes breakdowns of factory disasters and production secrets. Leave a comment below. Do you think this collapse was the result of poor design or poor maintenance? And don't forget to share this video with someone who thinks water is always harmless. One tank, millions lost, and an entire industry forced to wake up.